Welcome to Critical Thinking Live, Friends of Europe's boutique offering where we bring you short, sharp interviews with world leaders, opinion formers, commentators on Europe and the world, people who matter to Europe and matter to Europe in the world also. Today, I don't disappoint, we have a view from the outside. What is Europe's credentials like for those who are not within Europe, those who work globally, those companies that are some of the most iconic in the world? How do they view Europe's approach to digitalization? I'm joined by none other than Girish Ramachandran, who is the president of Growth Markets that covers everything from Middle East, Asia, North Pacific, etc., a whole range of global markets, but also Global Head of Public Services for Tata. Girish, it's a real pleasure to have you with us to give us a sense and a view of Europe's trajectory in terms of digitalization. So, as I said, you're someone who covers such a number of markets, Middle East, North Africa, Asia, and public services. What's your overall sense of Europe's strength or its weaknesses?
Thank you. First of all, a pleasure to be here. I do think we look at Europe's problems, the problems that are happening today in the world, and convert it into opportunities for Europe. Yeah. The first and foremost thing which is happening right now is that there is a lot of deficit of trust around the world. Okay, and the deficit of trust emanates from the lack of leadership. And all the geopolitics which goes around the world. Okay, if you look at Europe as a brand is still trusted the most. Okay, and that's why you have Made in Europe still has a significant premium that you can get out of Made in Europe. So is there an opportunity for us to convert that into an opportunity for Europe? Okay, if you look at all the issues that are happening in geopolitics and the lack of trust, every country is looking inwards and becoming more and more nationalistic. Okay? And when you look at becoming more and more nationalistic, the first and foremost thing people do is, how do I secure my own borders, especially on the digital side? Okay? And that is what we call it as sovereignty. And there is a significant push. When I meet customers across in Europe, there is a significant push towards moving into sovereignty. What does sovereignty mean? Okay. Sovereignty, according to us, we launched this recently in India, what we call the Sovereign Secure Cloud. We believe it is three fundamental things. Okay. The first and foremost is that the data of the country need to reside in the country. That's the first and foremost thing. We call it data sovereignty. The second important thing, we call it as what we call operational sovereignty, which means people who are building the applications or managing the application have to physically sit in the country or the continent. You can't have somebody sitting somewhere in another continent managing your applications. And the third one, we call it as digital sovereignty. So, which means that is there a stack that you can build on the technology which builds a lot of sovereignty for yourself, so that tomorrow something goes wrong in some other country, you don't have the spare parts available to run your own country, or if the country goes down. So those are the things that we talk about in terms of sovereignty. So I do think there is a big opportunity for Europe to build on this.
Okay, Girish, sorry to interrupt you. Do you believe that Europe can have that sovereignty? India, I understand, a population of 1.34 billion, you're producing some of the best software engineers in the world. You have resources that Europe doesn't have. From your experience, do you feel that Europe has the capacity to have that digital sovereignty?
Whoever I talk to, there is whichever customers I talk to across in Europe, all of them genuinely want it. And it is not that you need to have 100% digital sovereignty. At least the data of the citizens here has to be protected. And for that, is there a way by which we can keep that data aside and keep it in the country or in Europe? Okay. And is there a way by which you can manage that sitting from here? So it is definitely a path that Europe has to work towards. And I think it is something which, when I talk to customers, they are very keen on doing it. So I think sovereignty is something which I do believe will happen in the short term.
From your experience, so let's think about that for a moment, because people argue that Europe's lost the sovereignty argument because most of our data is held in clouds operated by the United States. And so we've lost that game. What role can Tata Consultancy Services, in your role as a business to business, but also a standard setter of excellence in digitalization, what role can you play to support Europe's digitalization agenda?
The first and foremost is that there are so many data centers coming up around the world.
Yes.
And Europe is no exception. There is a lot of data centers coming up here as well. Okay? So Europe has to insist that their data has to physically reside in the data centers here. That's the first part of the sovereignty. Okay? And I don't think it is so difficult for us to achieve that. Okay? The second one, which we call the operational sovereignty, is a little bit more difficult. And unless Europe insists on that,
yes,
I think there is an opportunity for us to create the operational sovereignty in this country, and we can step towards helping Europe towards that. Okay. The digital sovereignty is something where if you have big companies over here which build perhaps the best semiconductor chips in the world, and there is no reason why Europe should be left behind in that.
Okay, what you're experiencing from other regions and continents, right? Because you're everywhere.
Yeah.
You're a global, you're a global person. So if you were to think about rating Europe in relation to, let's say, other parts of Asia, let's say Middle East, North Africa, different kind of context. But what's your rating of Europe when you think about the other companies and countries that you work with across the world in comparison to how they view Europe? What's your sense of it?
So let me come to a few countries. The countries which I think of as benchmarks are UAE, Saudi Arabia, India, okay, as well as Singapore. If you look at all of these countries, what you see is that they have moved on the sovereignty ladder quite a bit, and they are pretty much. I won't say that they have 5 out of 5, but they want to achieve that particular thing. Okay?
And what are the characteristics of that for you?
The biggest characteristic is the government pushing an agenda which says that my data has to reside in my own continent. Okay. And the second one is ensuring that if the world over stops, but only my country is running, how do I ensure that my applications run in this particular country? The second element I was thinking about, which Europe can turn on itself as an advantage, is this whole concept about regulation and AI. Everybody talks about is Europe over-regulated? But I do think there is an opportunity for us to turn it around.
Okay.
Simply because of the fact that if we believe that we are not going to be losing a human's job to AI is not going to take over fully a particular job, but you are going to lose your job only to somebody who can use AI better. If you consider that as a concept, I do think that AI is an area where Europe has advanced quite a bit. So what Europe has done is married AI and sustainability very, very strongly, which other countries have not done so far.
So you see that as a sort of USP that is actually put its green credentials into AI.
Correct. And that is probably, this is something which I personally think that if we want to look at beneficial intelligence as the final thing that we need to look at for the society at large, AI alone is not able to do that.
Yeah.
So I have a simple equation. I call it AI plus HI plus EI is equal to BI.
Okay. So it's unpack beneficial intelligence for me, because I love that phrase. Let's make sure we understand that better.
So I do think that human intelligence has to coexist with AI. So that's why I call it AI plus HI. Okay. And it's not just HI which needs to come in, but it also emotional intelligence has to coexist with that. So if you have AI along with the human intelligence, along with emotional intelligence, then there is an opportunity to create something using AI which is beneficial for the community at large. And that is, I think, perhaps an opportunity where Europe can chug along very, very strongly.
Is this a brand new brand from TCS that you're going to promote amongst countries? Because it makes sense. And actually, the way you've just unpacked the kind of human, emotional, and tech aspect of it kind of gives a sense of reassurance to people that machines aren't going to take over.
There are places where machines will take over. We call it dark factories. So, today there are a lot of dark factories in China, which produces pretty much everything. But at the end of it, somebody has to tell the factory what it needs to produce. And that is the human intelligence part which comes in. So my only thing is Europe has such strong academia, such beautiful universities. And there is if we are able to coexist with the regulators, academia, as well as the business, and we are able to train the talent here so strongly, there is an opportunity for us to create something very unique. And I have a different thought on this, because Europe has created this financial structures which are very different. For example, in every 3 countries you have your one financial country which provides like a Luxembourg, okay, or like a Switzerland, okay. You have countries like that. Is there an opportunity on the AI space as well, where you can create small sectors and for countries where digital passport is pretty much available for everybody? You get the best. Nowadays there is a dearth of places human talent can go to because of what is happening around the world. Is there an opportunity for Europe to step in and look at that as creating a digital passport so that people can live in those countries and create the best in class in terms of AI?
That's an interesting idea. So what you're saying is almost like sandboxing an idea, but not across the 27 states.
Yeah.
But you're saying that actually there's still power and strength and value in getting 5 or 10 of them to have this digital passporting, which will lift the others up. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. I think instead of creating regulation first, is there an opportunity to create sandboxes? And is there an opportunity to use the sandbox and the experience to power the regulation? And for that, you need talent. And you can't have, probably people might be very worried whether it increases immigration. But if, just like you created structures on the financial side like Luxembourg and other countries, is there an opportunity for you to create smaller version of Luxembourg's or smaller version of Switzerland's and get the best talent around the world to come and work in these countries? And you give them a glide path so that they don't run away from here. And then you create the best of what the world needs on AI.
I hope Ursula von der Leyen and others in the Commission are listening to this, because they don't have the agility. What you're describing will require Europe to be so much more agile, flexible, segmented, and have a view of the talent within Europe and say, you know what, we're going to put some stuff there which is going to become wholly digital, and elsewhere we're going to do it differently. But on that note, I want to move to 2 significant areas before we conclude this interview. One is public services. You are global head of public services for TCS, so you're seeing what's happening across the world. Tell us a little bit about how TCS or digitalization will assist public services at a time when costs are the highest and they need to make a decision between essential services or cuts elsewhere. And is digital the solution? Can you give us your opinion on that, but also some examples of where Europe could actually strengthen its capability if we were to become more digitalized?
The one problem which Europe has is a lot of technical debt. A lot of systems are still working on old systems. And if you look at countries like UAE, or you look at Saudi Arabia, or you look at India, okay, these countries have really significantly moved ahead in what we call the digital public infrastructure. So what do you mean by digital public infrastructure? Is there a way by which every citizen in the country is able to get everything from birth to death without going to an office, physical office? Okay, and today that thing is possible. Okay,
where is it happening? Where is that happening?
So it happens even in India. It happens even in India.
In what shape? Give us an example. In what way?
So, for example, we have created some of the systems in India for some of the states where you don't have to necessarily step into a public sector or public office at all. Okay, everything can be done online. And India has created this very interesting structures, whether it is for payments, whether it is for KYC, all of that, by which you essentially ensure that the citizens are verified, and then all the services can be provided without any of this thing. So I think it's a question of regulators working together, and all the regulators across these 27 countries has to work together. If there is an opportunity for all the regulators to work together and create one single standardized way of looking at providing some of these services, then you don't have to necessarily look at upgrading everything together. You can look at componentized architecture. If you're looking, you can pick one architecture after that, just like India created the best in class today in payments. Okay, so you create a componentized architecture by which you make it seamless for every citizen to start working on this.
And so this is fascinating because it's not people who are listening and watching this. You're describing an India they don't recognize. It's an India that they didn't expect to have this kind of modernity, this kind of approach to tech first, as well as people. And digital passporting is really what you're talking about, one level, but everything seamlessly woven into that one unit. Bigger people here in Europe will say, what about the threats to my identity being stolen? What about security? What about the fact that if we've got, let's say, 5 million citizens who are all locked into this one identity passporting approach, someone comes in, cyber hacks, and hacks it?
I think you should start with the premise that you create something with the security framework in mind.
Right.
In India, they've created a very interesting model called a digital passport. So, and what you do is you create something called a digital locker, by which you store all your personal information only in the locker, and only you can unlock it. The government cannot unlock it. If you are able to look at all the citizens in Europe and create a digital locker first, and ensure that that is fully protected, which means all the data of the citizens are protected, and then start building applications on top of it, which can be payments, which can be anything one after another. That is the way to start looking at it. So start with a security first approach, and then start building some of these solutions.
You're here with us as a partnership between Friends of Europe and Tata Consultancy Services to elevate and generate a better debate around digitalization. And, we are having this conversation as a part of an ongoing relationship around how we look at digitalization as a motor for Europe's success. And, we're looking this year at prepare, provide, pioneer. On the pioneer side, what do you think, and this is my kind of final question to you, is that what message do you want to give European policymakers on the issue around pioneering for good, if I call it in those terms?
That's an area which comes to Europe very naturally. Sustainability and what I call beneficial intelligence is something which comes very naturally, because many of the laws people have taken from Europe and taken it to other countries. Is there a way that we can turn it around and use that as a strength? And if the policymakers are able to use that as a strength and then see how you can build frameworks around it, I think Europe has a very, very strong opportunity to take the digital public infrastructure of what is being built in Europe to other parts of the world.
And do you feel that as TCS, as Tata Consultancy Services, what role do you want to play on this agenda?
We have built some of the best digital public infrastructures in the world. We build, for example, most of the India stack, as they call it, has been built by us. Most of the work that we do in the Kingdom, Saudi Arabia, or in other places are built by TCS. So we can bring that expertise here, and that is an area that we genuinely believe that we can work along with Europe.
Excellent. Girish, thank you very much for your time. It's been fascinating. I've never heard of digital lockers. Beneficial intelligence will become a brand, I can assure you. People will want to understand it. But dark factories, I think people are going to really pick up on that in the sense that, I don't think it's a phrase or a concept people have really understood. The fact that it's actually happening.
It's currently happening in China.
And it's good to know, why isn't it out there in the public domain? I suppose people are going to wonder about that. But you've given us a lot to think about. And obviously, clearly, but also India has a lot to show for others in a way that would not imagine. But your concepts around making kind of sandboxes in Europe that are digital first and security first, I think has a lot of traction. Hopefully others will listen to it. Thank you very much for your time. Colleagues, thank you for listening and watching Critical Thinking Live. As we said, we always bring you people who are going to make you think differently and perhaps question differently about the digitalization agenda on this occasion. Look forward to seeing you again, and keep an eye on our website for our next ventures. Thank you very much, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Take care and look after yourself.